I needed the money for a European cruise. Those words from my son revealed a truth that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. My name is Thomas Bennett, and I'm 63 years old. I live in a quiet neighborhood in Burlington, Ontario, where my late wife Margaret and I raised our children. Margaret passed away 2 years ago after a battle with ovarian cancer. The grief comes in waves still, catching me off guard when I'm doing something as simple as making coffee or folding laundry. Among all her possessions, there was one thing I couldn't bear to part with: a vintage Rolex Submariner that had belonged to her father, my father-in-law, Edward. He'd worn it every single day of his adult life. When Edward passed away 15 years ago, Margaret inherited it. She never wore it herself, but she kept it in perfect condition, having it serviced regularly. "Dad's spirit is in this watch," she used to say, winding it carefully every few days. "As long as it keeps ticking, he's still with us somehow." After Margaret died, I found the watch in her jewelry box, wrapped in the same soft cloth her father had used. I started wearing it immediately, not because it was valuable, though I knew it was worth quite a bit. I wore it because when I looked down at my wrist, I could see Margaret's hands holding it, see her father's wrist where it had sat for decades. It connected me to both of them. The weight of it was comforting, a physical reminder that I hadn't always been this alone. My son James is 31 years old. He's always been what Margaret called a free spirit, which was her kind way of saying he couldn't hold down a job. He'd studied communications at Brock University, graduated with decent marks, and then proceeded to drift through a series of entry-level positions, never staying anywhere longer than 18 months. "I'm finding myself," he'd say whenever Margaret worried about his lack of direction. After Margaret died, James moved back home for a few months. I was grateful for the company at first. The house felt enormous and empty without her, but James brought his girlfriend Nicole with him, and that's when things started to shift. Nicole was 27, worked in social media marketing, and had opinions about everything. Strong opinions. "You really should renovate this kitchen, Thomas," she'd say, running her hand along the countertops Margaret had picked out 20 years ago. "These laminate counters are so dated. Quartz is what everyone's doing now." "Margaret loved this kitchen," I'd reply quietly. "Well, she's not here anymore, is she?" Nicole would say with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. James never corrected her. That bothered me more than I wanted to admit. After 3 months, I suggested they find their own place. James said they were looking, but money was tight. He'd lost another job, this time at a marketing agency downtown. "They didn't appreciate my creative vision," he explained. They moved out in March, into a basement apartment in Hamilton. I helped with the first and last month's rent, which I could barely afford on my pension, but Margaret would have wanted me to help our son. After they left, the house felt quiet again, but it was a better kind of quiet. Peaceful, not tense. I saw James maybe once a month after that. He'd come by for dinner, usually without Nicole, thank goodness. We'd eat and watch hockey, the Maple Leafs mostly, though they broke our hearts more often than not. James never asked about the watch, never seemed to notice I wore it every day. Then, 3 weeks ago, everything changed. It was a Tuesday morning in early September. The leaves were just starting to turn, that first hint of gold touching the maples in my backyard. I was getting ready for my weekly coffee meeting with some friends from my old job at the Go Transit Maintenance Department. We'd been meeting every Tuesday for 5 years, even through Margaret's illness. Those guys kept me sane. I went to my bedroom to get the watch from my nightstand, where I always left it overnight. The small wooden dish where I kept it was empty. I checked the drawer. Nothing. I looked under the bed, thinking maybe it had fallen. I checked the bathroom counter, the dresser, even the kitchen windowsill where I sometimes left my reading glasses. The watch was gone. My heart started pounding in that slow, heavy way it does when something's truly wrong. I searched the entire house, every room, every surface, every possible place I might have absent-mindedly set it down. 2 hours later, I stood in my living room, hands shaking, and called James. "Hey, Dad," he answered on the 4th ring. I could hear traffic in the background. "What's up?" "James, have you been by the house recently? In the past few days?" "Yeah, I came by Saturday when you were at your golf thing." Saturday, 3 days ago. I'd been at the golf course with Bill and Ron, a monthly game we'd started last spring. Your grandfather's watch is missing. Margaret's father's watch. The Rolex. I can't find it anywhere." There was a pause. Too long of a pause. "Oh," James said. "That watch. Yeah, Dad. Listen, we need to talk about that." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean? We need to talk about it. Where is it, James? Can I come by later? This isn't really a phone conversation." "James Arthur Bennett, you tell me right now where that watch is." I heard him exhale. "I sold it, Dad. I took it to a jewelry buyer on King Street in Toronto. We needed the money." The room tilted. I sat down hard on the couch. The phone pressed so tight to my ear it hurt. "You what?" "Nicole and I have been planning this trip to Europe. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. It's been her dream forever, and we finally found a great deal on a cruise that hits all those ports. But we needed another $3,000 for the deposit, and you weren't even really using the watch, not like actually using it. It just sat there." "I wore it every single day," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Well, yeah, but I mean, what's the point? It's just a watch, and it was technically Mom's, so it should be mine anyway, right? I'm the only child. Her stuff is my inheritance." Something cracked inside my chest. "Your mother wanted you to have things when I pass away, James, and that watch belonged to her father. It's been in our family for 50 years. 50 years. Your grandfather wore it on his wedding day. He wore it when your mother was born. He wore it the day I asked him for permission to marry her." "Okay, but Dad, come on. It's just metal and gears. Nicole says you've been stuck in the past ever since Mom died, and she's right. You need to move forward. Selling the watch? That's actually probably good for you. One less thing tying you to painful memories." I couldn't speak. I literally could not form words. Nicole says. Nicole thinks. When had my son started letting this woman speak for him? When had he become someone who would steal from his own father? "Where did you sell it?" I finally managed. "Some jewelry place. I don't remember the name. King Street, I think? Or maybe it was Queen? There are a bunch of them downtown." "You don't remember the name of the place where you sold your grandfather's watch?" "Dad, don't be dramatic. It's not like I killed someone. It's just stuff. Material things. You're the one who always said family is what matters, not possessions. And yet you stole from family to buy possessions," I said quietly. "I didn't steal. I borrowed. Once we get back from the cruise, I'll help you find another watch if you want. There's lots of nice watches out there." I hung up. I actually hung up on my own son, something I'd never done in my entire life. Then I sat on that couch for 20 minutes, staring at the wall where Margaret's favorite painting hung, a watercolor of Lake Ontario at sunset that she'd bought at a craft fair in Oakville. What would Margaret say if she were here? I knew exactly what she'd say. She'd be heartbroken. She'd cry, not just for the watch, but for what it meant about who our son had become. I called James back. He answered immediately. "Dad, look, I'm sorry you're upset, but what was the name of the buyer?" I interrupted. He sighed. "I told you. I don't remember exactly. I think it was on King Street, or maybe it was Yonge Street. There are so many. Check your email, your texts, your bank records. You must have some record of where you sold it." "Why? What are you going to do?" "I'm going to get it back." "Dad, they're not just going to give it back to you. That's not how this works. Find me the name of that shop, James. Today, or I'll call every jewelry buyer in Toronto until I find it myself." I hung up again. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I made myself a cup of tea, Earl Grey, Margaret's favorite. As I waited for the kettle to boil, I noticed the photo on the refrigerator. The four of us at Niagara Falls when James was 12, Margaret's arm around me, James grinning with missing front teeth, her father Edward standing proud in his suit jacket, that Rolex just visible on his wrist. The kettle screamed. I poured the water, watched the tea bag darken it, added milk the way Margaret had taught me. "Just a cloud," she used to say. "Not a storm." My phone buzzed. A text from James. It was called Premium Gold Buyers. 285 King Street West. "Dad, please don't make a scene. They're professionals. They won't just give it back." I didn't respond. I finished my tea, put on my jacket, and drove into Toronto. The traffic was terrible, as always. It took me an hour and 20 minutes to get downtown, find parking, and walk to 285 King Street West. Premium Gold Buyers was squeezed between a Starbucks and a currency exchange, with a small sign and bars on the windows. Very discreet, very professional looking. I pushed open the door. A bell chimed. Inside, the shop was smaller than I expected, with display cases along the walls showing various pieces of jewelry, watches, and gold coins. A young man, maybe 25, stood behind the counter scrolling on his phone. "Help you?" he asked without looking up. "My son sold you a watch. A Rolex Submariner. Vintage from the 1960 seconds. Steel and gold with a black dial. It would have been this past Saturday." The kid looked up now, interested. "Yeah? And? I want it back." He had no right to sell it. It's a family heirloom. The kid's face shifted into a practiced expression of sympathy that didn't reach his eyes. "I understand this is emotional, sir. But if your son sold it, that's a legal transaction. We paid fair market value." How much?" "I can't disclose transaction details." "How much did you pay him?" The kid sighed and tapped on his computer. 2,500. My jaw clenched. That watch was worth at least 8,000, possibly more. They'd robbed my son, who was too ignorant to know better. "I'll pay you 3,000. Right now. I have my credit card. It's not for sale. We sell to dealers and collectors. When it sells, you can try to buy it from whoever purchases it." "When will it sell? Could be tomorrow. Could be 3 months. There's no way to know." I pulled out my wallet, took out every card I owned, and set them on the counter. 4,000. 5,000. Name your price. The kid actually looked uncomfortable now. "Sir, I can't. My boss would fire me. These watches, they go to specific buyers who—" "Where's your boss? Let me talk to your boss." "He's not here." "When will he be here?" "Sir, you need to calm down." "I am calm." I wasn't calm. My voice was too loud in the small shop. That watch belonged to my wife's father. She died 2 years ago. Cancer. That watch is all I have left of her, of him, of my marriage. My son had no right to sell it. The kid's expression softened just a fraction. "Look, man, I get it. I do. But legally, your son owned that watch, and he sold it. That's done. What I can do is take your information, and if it comes back up for sale, I can contact you first. That's the best I can offer." I stood there, breathing hard, feeling my age in every joint, 73 years old and about to cry in front of a stranger. I gave him my name and number. He wrote it down on a post-it note that would probably end up in the trash. As I turned to leave, defeated, the kid said, "Hey, wait. You said your son sold it Saturday?" "Yes." He tapped his computer again, frowning. "That's weird." "What's weird? I shouldn't tell you this, but—" He looked at me, seemed to make a decision. "We sent that watch out yesterday, to our specialist. We do that sometimes when we get unusual pieces. They open them up, check for authenticity, look for any special markings or modifications." "Open them up?" "Yeah, the case back. To see the movement, the serial numbers. Sometimes people hide things in watches, especially vintage ones. Drugs, cash, even microfilm, back in the Cold War days. My boss is paranoid about that stuff." My heart started beating faster. "When will it be back?" "Usually takes 3 days. The specialist is up in Richmond Hill. But listen, if they find anything weird, it goes straight to the police. That's our policy." "I understand, thank you." I left the shop and sat in my car for a long time. Margaret's watch was being taken apart by a stranger. Edward's watch. The watch that had connected 3 generations of our family. I felt sick. I called James. It went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted. "They opened the watch to examine it. If there's anything inside, I'll find out in 3 days." He called back within 30 seconds. "What do you mean, inside? Why would there be anything inside?" "I don't know, James. I've never opened it. Your grandfather never opened it as far as I know. But apparently it's something these buyers check." "Dad, this is crazy. You're obsessed." "It's just a watch." "No," I said quietly. "It's not just a watch. But you'll never understand that, will you? Because to you, everything is just stuff. Just things. Your mother, your grandfather, me. We're all just obstacles between you and whatever you want next. That's not fair, isn't it? You stole from me, James. You came into my home, the home where I'm trying to grieve your mother, and you stole something precious. Not for food, not for medicine, for a cruise, for a vacation with a woman who can't even pretend to respect your mother's memory. Nicole didn't make me do anything. I didn't say she did. You did this yourself. That's what makes it worse. I hung up, drove home, made dinner, a grilled cheese sandwich that I barely tasted, watched the news without seeing it, went to bed, and didn't sleep. 3 days passed like 3 years. I couldn't focus on anything. My Tuesday coffee with the guys, I canceled. Bill called to check on me, and I told him I had a cold. I couldn't explain what was happening, couldn't put words to the hollow feeling in my chest. On Friday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Bennett? This is David Chen from Premium Gold Buyers. I need you to come down to the shop. Today, if possible. My mouth went dry. Did you find something? Please, just come down. As soon as you can. I made the drive in under an hour, pushing the speed limit the whole way. David Chen turned out to be the owner, a man in his 50s with gray hair and expensive-looking glasses. He was waiting for me when I arrived, standing outside the shop. Mr. Bennett, thank you for coming. Please, let's go inside. We went to a back office I hadn't seen before. On the desk sat the Rolex, next to its open case back and a small piece of paper, folded many times to fit inside the watch mechanism. Your son sold us this watch, Mr. Chen said carefully. When our specialist opened it to verify authenticity, he found this hidden in a cavity behind the movement. It's a letter. We haven't read it beyond confirming it's not anything illegal. That's not our place. But Mr. Bennett, we deal with estate jewelry every day, and I've learned that sometimes objects carry more than monetary value. Your son told my associate the watch was his to sell, but the name on this letter suggests otherwise. He handed me the note. It was folded into a tiny square, no bigger than my thumbnail. I unfolded it with shaking hands. Margaret's handwriting. I recognized it immediately. That careful script she'd used for grocery lists and birthday cards. The letter was dated 3 weeks before she died. My dearest Thomas, if you're reading this, it means Dad's watch found its way to you, and you've had it long enough for someone to open it. I asked Dr. Morrison to help me do this last week. My hands shake too much now, and I needed to be sure this was hidden properly. I know you'll wear this watch. You always loved Dad's watch, even before we met. You told me once, on our 3rd date, that a man who wears a good watch is a man who values time, and time is all we really have to give each other. I fell in love with you that night, though I didn't tell you for another 3 months. I'm writing this because I need you to know something. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of leaving you alone. James is not ready to be the son you need him to be. Maybe he never will be. I've tried to prepare you for that, but I know you don't want to hear it. You see the little boy who built Lego cities in the living room. I see a grown man who still hasn't learned that other people are real. When I'm gone, Thomas, promise me something. Promise me you'll live. Not just exist, not just survive, but live, travel. Take that trip to Ireland we always talked about. Learn to make pasta from scratch, like you said you would. Join that woodworking class. Call Bill and Ron more often. Let people love you. And if James disappoints you, when James disappoints you, don't let it break you. You are worth more than his ability to appreciate you. You are worth more than anyone's ability to see your value. I see it. I've always seen it. You are kind and steady and true, and those qualities don't become less valuable just because someone fails to recognize them. There's something else. In our safety deposit box at the TD branch on Guelph Line, there's an envelope marked for Thomas. I've been saving for 15 years, since Dad passed and left me some money. It's enough for you to do whatever you want. Go to Ireland, fix up the house, or just buy yourself a new watch if this one ever gets lost or broken. Use it to build a life after me. The box number is 247. The key is taped inside my copy of The Stone Angel on the bookshelf. You never could get through that book, so I knew it would be safe there. I love you. I've loved you since that 3rd date, and I'll love you whatever comes after this. Wear Dad's watch, and remember, time is precious. Don't waste it on people who don't value it. Yours forever, Margaret. I couldn't see the words by the end. Tears were running down my face, dripping onto the paper, smudging her careful letters. Mr. Chen quietly left the office and closed the door. I sat there and cried. For Margaret, for Edward, for the years I'd lost to grief, for the son who'd turned into a stranger, but mostly, I cried because she'd known. She'd known James would do something like this, and she'd prepared for it. She'd given me a way forward. When I finally stopped, I carefully refolded the letter and put it in my wallet. Mr. Chen came back in with a cup of water. I'm giving you the watch, he said quietly. No charge. What your son did, selling a family piece without permission, that's unconscionable. We should have asked more questions. I'll pay you the $2,500 you gave him. Mr. Bennett, please. Sometimes money isn't the point. He helped me put the watch back together, showed me how the case back screwed into place. The movement was beautiful, intricate, exactly as Edward would have kept it. As I should have known, Margaret had continued to have it serviced right up until she got too sick to leave the house. I drove home with the watch on my wrist, went straight to the bookshelf, found The Stone Angel, that dense Canadian novel Margaret had loved and I'd never finished. Opened the back cover. There was the key, taped to the inside backboard with yellowed Scotch tape. The next morning, I went to the TD branch. Box 247 contained a single large envelope. Inside was a letter from Margaret, shorter this time, and a bank statement showing a savings account I'd never known existed. $68,000. Money from her father's estate that she'd invested carefully over 15 years. The second letter said, "Use this for Joy, Thomas. That's all I ask." Joy. That was 4 days ago. I haven't called James. He's texted 3 times, asking if I'm okay. I've deleted them all. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. Margaret was right. Some people aren't capable of being who you need them to be. That's not a reflection of your worth. It's just a fact. This morning, I called a travel agent. I'm booking a month in Ireland, leaving in October. The cliffs of Moher, the Ring of Kerry, Dublin pubs, all of it. Everything Margaret and I talked about but never did because there was always some reason to wait. I'm wearing Edward's watch right now as I tell this story. The weight of it feels different somehow, not heavy with grief anymore, but solid with purpose. Time is precious, Margaret wrote. Don't waste it on people who don't value it. I'm done wasting time. I'm 63 years old, and I have a life to live. Margaret made sure of that. She always did take care of me, even after she was gone. The watch keeps ticking. I keep moving forward, and somehow that feels like enough.